Hold on,
all
I'm
right, I can
behind you.
see you there.
Oh, what is it doing? Oh my god, my Instagram froze. What the fuck?
Oh no, okay.
Hold on. It does
Is
that
my
every time
Instagram,
I
my
start it.
Instagram looks
I
like
got
it's
it.
on, but you can't see my, wait, what's going on? Oh, here we go. The camera was facing the wrong way. All right, so I think I'm all situated on Instagram. Hi, I can see people coming in.
Hold on.
So just for people coming in right now, this is not a DJ thing today. Just to let you know in advance, I posted on my Insta story. I think a lot of people know I just got out of the hospital after a 2-week like hellacious ordeal, which ended up with me having sepsis, which is a killer. And so I'm very lucky to be alive and at home today. And so me and my friend Kenya, who is an up and coming giant in the holistic healthcare world, we're going to just sit and we're going to have a chat on both of our Instagrams. So the way we're doing this, we can't do picture in picture. So she's here on my computer screen, and then she's also streaming from her page. She's Fit Fighter.
Yeah, sit fighter.
Fit Fighter on Instagram. Hopefully she can type her username or something in here. So, or actually she won't be able to, but we'll get you her username later so you guys can follow her later. Hi, thank you. I am feeling a little bit better. I'm feeling really good right now because I'm on morphine. So just to let you know that the morphine is allowing me to get stuff done. If it wasn't for that, I'd be lying in bed screaming still. But it is really nice not to have the fever anymore because I had a fever for about 2 weeks. So, all right. So Kenny will just let me know when we're ready, and then we have like 4 things that we want to talk about today, just in regards for being your own advocate for
Yes.
healthcare, and it's like self-care at home, things you can do to prevent things like what happened to me this week, but also what to do when doctors don't take you seriously. And I think a lot of people know that, particularly when you're a woman or even a minority in the U.S. And just in general, just I think doctors in general these days have gotten a little bit lazy about their practice, and you go in and you try to talk to them about your pains and stuff, and a lot of them they don't let you speak for more than 2 seconds before they start telling you that you're fine, just take these narcotics and go home. So we're going to talk to you today about both of our experiences with that and what we have done in both of our lives to mitigate that and what we'd like to talk to people about moving forward. Yeah. So I've been talking a lot, so sorry.
Everybody's gonna be like, you're talking, but I can see you in like a little corner. It's
Right.
totally fine.
Yeah.
So I'm here too. This is Fit Fighter. I'm super excited to do this, especially with what's been happening with Moon and also my personal experiences. It's such a timely conversation that needs to be had at this point in time. Um, we're gonna start with talking just about the state of Western medicine right now. So obviously, I'm a big proponent of holistic medicine. I am a big proponent of Eastern medicine, and that really comes from my experiences with Western medicine and being in situations where, unfortunately, you almost lose your life because we have tons of dangerous medications upon medications. We have doctors who don't listen. We have doctors who don't care. They are rushed. They're trying to get their billable hours, kind of like lawyers. So this is a really important conversation that I feel like everybody kind of needs to have. Obviously there will be times in our lives when we have to rely on Western medicine to get us through certain illnesses or something serious. That's true. But there's a lot that we can do, and the most important part when you bridge that gap is being able to advocate for your own health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess I'll let you go ahead and get started. I apologize for the background noise. They were supposed to be done. Give me 2 seconds to go yell at them to go away, and I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, you're
I'm
fine.
embarrassed.
So I just want to quickly talk about my personal experience because her story is much more fresh than mine is and longer. So I've had ups and downs with Western medicine my entire adult life, primarily because I am so strong about advocating for my own health. I will not back down. A lot of that, yes, is my professional experience and my education, but that's also how I was raised. So I'll give you a perfect example. When I was 28, I was diagnosed with fibroids. Between 28 and 31, 32, they were growing untreated. So when I finally started to look for a gynecologist when I moved from New York City down here to Charlotte, I was really focused on trying to get it under control. I was starting to experience symptoms. The first doctor I went to, who was recommended by my university, was an older Caucasian woman who gave me a pap smear and told me that my fibroids aren't a problem and the pain that I was experiencing wasn't real. And I looked at her and I laughed at her and I walked out the door and I never looked back. So now I have a fantastic gynecologist who's also my surgeon, who is a specialist in difficult obstetric surgeries as well as gynecological surgeries. And she's a Black woman. She took me very seriously and did what should have happened right off the bat. Yes, I should have had a normal pap smear, etc., but I should have also been ultrasounded because I already had a diagnosis. So this is a much more minor situation that can happen, but as you can see, if I had given in to that doctor who said, "Oh, don't worry about your pain. You don't have any real symptoms. You just need to take some more ibuprofen," my fibroids could have been triple the size they were at the point in which I went in for surgery. So, like I said, this is a minor case of, a situation where I really had to advocate for my health, a situation where things could have gone left. Now, Moon has a much more fresh and larger story than I do, and it's a story that desperately needs to be told, so I'm going to turn the floor over to her for that.
All right, thank you. Well, it's funny because our stories are similar, and actually what's really interesting is how Kenya and I met is because in 2014, I had been really ill, and my history is I have stage 4 endometriosis, and I've had endometriosis for something like 15 to 17 years. We won't know exactly because just like her initials doctors did with her fibroids, they told me that mine was nothing, I just had bad periods, here's some narcotics, go home. And I was on Vicodin for about probably like 8 years like that, just thinking I was just having heavy periods, but I kept Googling, doing my own research online. I kind of knew it was endometriosis. But every time I suggested to a doctor, mostly because of my race, John Hopkins actually, on johnhopkins.com, if you go there and it talks about endometriosis, it actually says, you're more likely to have it if you're a white woman, their exact words. And we all know that that's not true. And not only that, there's a lot of, not at all. And first of all, to use the term white woman, it should have said Caucasian because that's actually the race, right? But not only that, like with everybody, a lot of people being so mixed ethnicities and with, I can't understand why it said that because you just never know. And even if that is the situation, what harm is it to take a look? If a patient, especially a patient that's been coming to you for over 2 years with pain that needs to be managed by a narcotic, go ahead and take a look, right? So, my story is long, but just for the sake of time in this video, I'm just going to talk about my most recent experience, and that is what happened in the last 2 weeks. So I have about 10 chronic illnesses, the biggest one being the stage 4 endometriosis. Once again, I apologize for this background noise. I've asked them like 4 times to go away, and they're not, so hopefully you can still hear me. If you can't, let me know. So I went into the ER about 2 weeks ago with intense stomach pain, and it was horrible. And the ER doctor knew me because I've been to this ER before for both my multiple sclerosis and my endometriosis. And he saw me and he already it's like, oh, here's this girl again. And he didn't want to give me pain medication. I didn't really want it anyway. I just wanted to know what was wrong with my stomach. Why can't I go to sleep? Why am I screaming? It's midnight on a Friday night. He basically not only didn't take me seriously at all, after he ran blood tests, he wanted to focus on my anemia. And my anemia, I live about an 8 for hemoglobin. For those of you who don't know, you're supposed to be at around a 13. That's normal with endometriosis. I already know that. I told him again, I said, I understand that. That's not why I'm here. That's not why I'm here. I'm so sorry about the noise. Give me 2 seconds again. Can you talk in the meantime?
Yeah, of course. So she's gonna get all the details of her story when she gets back. She's got landscapers at her house. We are actually on the East Coast, West Coast right now. So she's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, and we're both really excited, but also really compelled to share our stories with what we've experienced, because we find that, especially me in the professional, in being a health counselor, being a research scientist, being a biologist, I hear horror stories all the time of people who are misdiagnosed, people who are on 15 plus medications. They're taking more medication to manage side effects of previous medications. It's a vicious and horrible cycle. And at the end of the day, the truth is, people are losing their lives, especially people of color. We have to do, like in every other aspect of our lives in this country, let's be real, we have to do, 10 times the work to get to the parity that is necessary for everyone else. Now, good or bad and different, that's not the debate here, but the point of the matter is, this is what we have to do. And so, again, I can't stress enough how important it is to be informed. Getting a diagnosis is not a death sentence. That's the first thing. No matter what that diagnosis is, there is always something that can be done. If that means managing something and you're living with it and it's chronic, okay. If it's something that we can actually treat and get rid of, there are things that we can do. We have to look beyond the scope of a doctor writing a prescription. We have to look at ourselves. We have to look at, what are we doing in our lifestyles, in our nutrition, in our exercise, in our relationships that is either contributing to illness or pushing illness away, treating illness, being preventative. This is what we have to do, especially in a time like this. Again, imagine this. Let me ask this question. I know I only have a few people on my live, but I want to ask this question. Last time you went to the doctor, how long did your doctor spend with you? Did you feel comfortable talking to your doctor? Do you like your doctor? Are you happy with your doctor? These are the basics of the questions that we need to ask, even just from a preventative standpoint, far less, when we actually have to treat something or have a serious issue. That's where you start. Let's start with what we already have. Think about those questions. You had a misdiagnosis as well as that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Were you able, from your diagnosis, so now that you're officially diagnosed with endometriosis, have you been able to get it somewhat under control, or are you still struggling with basically the medical profession on taking you seriously for the things that you need? I know you have to type.
I can't see the questions coming up on her screen,
know,
so.
Yeah, because we're trying something. We're it's 2017. We are on 3017 right now with our double Skype, double IG live session right now. So you gotta bear with us. We're hoping to put this on YouTube and actually start to really open up this conversation that other people can participate on different platforms. So this is the pilot. Moon, I'm gonna let you get back to your story.
Okay.
Hopefully, Earthly Zen, she's on she obviously does. Right, my brain's going crazy. Here we go. She struggled a long time, bleeding nonstop for 2 years through a misdiagnosis. And I know that you understand what that's like, especially with it just being endo. That's awful. See, these are the types of things that should not be happening in 2017. She had blood transfusions. My mom almost died from fibroids, and she had to have 6 blood transfusions and a hysterectomy.
Wow.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This shouldn't be happening in 2017. But I also think, before I give Moon back the floor, there is something very strange going on in gynecology.
Yep,
so you
absolutely.
end up having a hysterectomy as well. I'm so sorry to hear that. What I wanted to say was, and I want to digress for a moment, gynecology in this country is very strange. And while that by itself could be a whole IG live discussion amongst us ladies, I want to point out that easily 100 years ago, so not that long ago, white male gynecologists were experimenting on black women with no anesthesia to lead to the gynecological discoveries that we have today. That's 100 years ago. So if your grandmother is 95 right now, and there's a lot of people who have grandparents that are living that old, think about that. So the thing about that also is if that's where we are and it's 2017, we have a long way to go. But that way and that road starts with us being informed and again demanding what we need for our bodies. That's the most important thing. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox and turn it over to Moon so she can finish her story because it is something that everybody needs to hear.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys, and sorry about the noise. One last time, they have promised me that they're going to keep it down for at least half an hour. So, hopefully we'll be able to rock with that. So, going back to my story, so I'm in the ER on a Friday night, 2 weeks ago, exactly 2 Fridays ago, and my stomach is killing me. And the ER doctor's not taking me seriously. He's trying to tell me it's my anemia, it's my endo. I went into the ER, I think around midnight, so it was probably more like Saturday morning. And I was finally released at 8:30 the next morning, and I was only released then instead of earlier because I basically kept fighting this doctor. And again, he had seen me before, and I knew he didn't take me seriously as soon as he walked in. He was very rude, he was very condescending. He just spoke to me so, not derogatory, because that's a really harsh word, but he just spoke down to me the whole time, and you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a doctor. Well, I went to school for this, and, I'm telling you it's this. I was trying to explain to him, it could be stuff from multiple sclerosis. It could be an ulcer with all the ibuprofen I take. However, my ulcers activate at certain times in the month, and that was not one of the times in the month they activated because I had not been using ibuprofen during that time. So, I was telling him these are things that are not normal for my chronic illnesses, and I would like further testing. So, because of my own persistence, I got an ultrasound. First, I had a CT scan with contrast, and then I had an ultrasound. And both of those revealed that there was cyst ruptures around my right ovary, which is where my endometriosis is, and that there was another cyst left, and that there was fluid leaking around my abdomen. So, in my opinion, there's a cyst rupture there, and I'm having all this pain and I'm feeling sick. There could be an infection. It's not normal that cysts leak infections when they rupture, but when they do, it's serious and you should be on antibiotics. And so I asked about antibiotics, and I said, it looks to me like there could be an infection here. I was denied. In fact, I was given Percocet. During that time, they gave me the first Percocet while they were waiting my symptoms out. That ER doctor left. He wrote on the file for the next doctor to know that I was a hard to work with patient. So that doctor told me that when he came in, the morning doctor for Saturday, Saturday after 8 a.m. And then that doctor told me he disagreed with part of what the other doctor said, but he agreed that I did not need any antibiotics, and that I simply should return to oncology, gynecology, to have the remaining cysts tested for cancer, which of course scared me. So I leave the ER and I'm thinking, all right, well, the other doctor was nicer, he seemed more reasonable, perhaps he was right. So within the next 3 days, my stomach pain it dulled out. It stopped being as sharp, but it was still there, and it spread across my abdomen. And then meanwhile, I had pain in my back that started stabbing me. And it gets to the point that the pain is so severe that once again, I'm screaming. For those of you who follow me and my music, I did a DJ set that day. It was Labor Day. By the end of the DJ set, I ended the DJ set early, for those of you that remember, again, because of pain in my leg that was coming from my back, and I was unable to stand much longer. Also, I mentioned during the DJ set, and this will come important later, that my hands were really clammy and they were sticking to the CDJs. Well, I don't usually get clammy hands. That was a sign of infection. I didn't know that until a few days ago myself. So that night I went to the ER again. New ER doctor. I had never seen this guy before. He comes in the room. "Oh, sweetie, you're being over dramatic." And this doctor called me sweetie like I don't know how many times. I was so annoyed. I'm like, that's not nice. That's not professional. But more than anything, that was putting me at a level below him. And he was making sure I knew, because he had seen the same notes on the file, that this is a difficult to work with patient. And he had seen the same notes of the file, that the girl was probably over dramatic. I don't know, maybe they had used the word hypochondriac, but he already came in knowing that I was going to tell him something different than what the previous doctor had said, that I disagreed with it. So he said, "Oh, sweetie, it's just your sciatica." He saw me for all of like 3 minutes. He took my leg, right leg, he moves it back and forth. I screamed when it was in one position, didn't make a noise in the other position. He said, "See, that indicates to me that it's your sciatica." No test, no radiology, no nothing. I said, "Doctor, I want to, I went to the restroom. I've left you a urine sample." He said, "Oh, we don't even need to test that. We're going to have that thrown out. We don't need it. All you need to do is take steroids because this is a flare of your sciatica. You need to see a neurologist to follow up later. And that's it." As he walked out of the room, I yelled after this guy, "You know what? You didn't check for infection. It could be my appendix. If I die, I literally yelled this at him. If I die, I'm coming back to haunt you and terrorize you the rest of your life because I have music to finish." And he laughed at me and just twisted his butt as he was walking way outside the room. So anyway, the nurse came back and assured me I would not be back to the ER again, that the steroids were going to take care of it. 4 days later, I was back in the ER again. So now I've taken the steroids for a week. Every time I took a steroid, about an hour later, I felt significantly worse. So to wrap the story up short, because we have other points we want to talk about, basically, I had a bacterial infection. More than likely came from a cyst, but to this day, I still don't know really the start of the infection, but it invaded my bladder. During the time the ER doctors were refusing to do more tests and run urine cultures like they should have, that infection moved into my right kidney. My right kidney was entirely infected. It then began to leak infection into my bloodstream, which is when it becomes sepsis. And that infected blood had been running and circulating through my entire body, and it possibly infected tissues, organs, and things where bacterial infections are not supposed to go. The bacteria was E. coli, so it's very serious. Well, any bacteria in the blood is serious. And I had a low-grade fever for that first week that I was talking about, the stomach pain and stuff. The second week I had a high-grade fever of 104. It was trying to get up to 107, but I was keeping it down with Motrin and Percocet. I finally got myself back to the ER Monday. They realized it was very serious. They admitted me into a hospital, and then, long story short, there was a big hospital cover-up, but I had a friend text me and say, "Hey, you know what, this sounds like sepsis poisoning." I laughed at it thinking it was ridiculous. I turned to the doctor and said, "Hey, my friend thinks I have sepsis poisoning." And she very seriously looked at me and she said, "In fact, that's what we're treating you for in your IV. That's one of the strongest antibiotics out there. And so we're not going to release you until we see no new cultures in your blood," meaning that there were bacterial cultures in my blood and we needed to wait for that to clear out before I could leave the hospital. So
I want to interrupt you for 1 second.
Go ahead.
Just for people who don't know fully or understand fully what sepsis or septicemia is, they're interchangeable words. So, like Moon said, it's when you get bacteria in your blood. The prognosis, once you have a full septic infection, you have about a 25% chance of survival. And that's with a 24-hour heavy duty. These are antibiotics you've never heard of. This is MRSA level antibiotics and beyond they use to treat septicemia. So a patient going for one problem and getting to that point in a short amount of time, the prognosis is surprisingly low. So I want to stress that so everybody understands how serious this situation is. People don't routinely go into the hospital, even for kidney infections or other types of infections, where they end up with sepsis. This is not a normal situation. This is not a situation that happens. It's not a comorbidity. It's nothing like that. This is beyond the scope of even, a hospital-related infection. This is, for lack of a better, I'm sorry, this is malpractice. Plain and simple. Take it away. Continue.
Yeah, so she's right. It falls under malpractice, and as far as the reason why I'm not going to talk about the hospital or which doctor it was or anything like that is because there may or may not be a lawsuit later, and I don't want to put that information out there at the moment. But I am able to talk about it from a general perspective and to make people aware of sepsis, first of all, because it was not something, I think I had heard of septic poisoning before, but it just sounded like something that maybe you would get in a very unclean situation, like maybe a bunch of people living in a house where nobody bathes and, there's maybe, IV drug use or something like that, which obviously was not my situation. So the more research I did about sepsis, since I heard of it this week and realized that I had it, this is probably the closest I've come to losing my life to date. and it is very serious. And in fact, my chances of reoccurrence are quite high. So I am staying at home. Most of my energy today is going to be put into this, and I'll be sleeping again. I'll probably be on bed rest for quite a while. And again, for anybody who didn't hear me in the beginning, I am actually alert and talking right now because of morphine, but the pain is still quite severe without it. And, I have to be very careful, like I said, for the next couple of weeks. So,
I just want to interrupt
yeah.
you for 1 second
Go
and
ahead.
acknowledge Earthly Zen, who shared with us that her mom passed away from sepsis
Oh,
within 24 hours
no.
of arriving at the ER.
No
So
way.
obviously, this hits close to home, on a different level.
Yeah. Yep, and that sepsis is something that moves quite quickly once it happens, because you have to remember bacteria should not be in the bloodstream. And
Yep.
there's an immune response that happens to it, which is why it's so important to watch what's happening with the immune system. For a doctor to not investigate and see if steroids were the right thing for me to do or not, I probably actually could have been in a better situation and not gotten as sick as I was had I not been given the particular set of steroids I was given first, because those steroids were meant to, I'm not sure, I believe they were meant to suppress the immune
Yeah.
system.
So
Right.
steroids as a whole class of steroids, they are designed solely to suppress the inflammatory response of your immune system. So
Right.
when you think of a steroid, it's actually, depending on how, low level it is or high level it is, the whole goal is to suppress your immune response. That's why it's so dangerous to administer a steroid for somebody who has a fever. Remember that a fever is not caused by a disease or a disorder. A fever is a direct response of your immune system to an invasion. So,
Yeah.
granted, fevers as high as 104 are very, very dangerous, and they're not good things to have. But that is your immune system responding to something versus something causing that. So when you have steroids, that suppresses your whole system.
Yep. Yep, that's it. So that's my story that we want to share. I think we can probably move through because we've been on about 27 minutes or something like that now. We can go on to the
Yeah.
other topics. If anyone has any questions related to sepsis, feel free to ask. While we're going through this, but that's my story. My story with health in general, it goes about 15 years. I am not a medical professional. I'm not certified to give medical advice, but I definitely have a lot of experience to speak about how to handle doctors, and reasons why I think not only am I alive today, but I am doing better than I could have otherwise been doing, and we'll talk about that as well.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, I think that it's clear to everybody how important advocating for your health is with these types of stories. I have more, but they're smaller ones. There was only one in which I was truly in life-threatening situation. And in fact, one of the things that I was at risk of was sepsis. Fortunately, my situation did not get that far, but that's a very real risk. Another risk is going into a hospital for, emergency surgery of some kind and coming out with a MRSA infection that kills you.
Yep.
That happened to my grandmother.
Wow.
So, these are this is what's happening out there. And I think that especially when there is, unfortunately, God forbid, loss of life, as humans, we're so inclined to focus on, the loss and the emotional side of it that we often look past the actuality of what's happening, because we're especially when you live in a higher being, you're not actively looking to place blame. So we tend to take it into ourselves and say, well, this happened and God has a plan and it's awful and this and that and other. All of that is true, but something wrong happened there, and that needs to
Yep.
be addressed. And so the goal is to impress upon people that we want to speak up for ourselves before we get to that point. Never let it, I'm sorry, I have to say this, it is on my heart.
Say it.
Just like you can have a bad mechanic, you can go get your brakes fixed, and this problem is worse when you come out of there. That's the same thing that can happen to you with a doctor. They are people. They read books. I sat in an advanced biology degree program for 6 years. I took more classes than is required for a pre-med student to go into medical school. So I can tell you with certainty in my heart, it's a crapshoot.
Yep.
It's a crapshoot, just like any other thing is a crapshoot, but we take those other things for granted. We can write off and say, oh, well, that person, that service sucked, and we can move on. But when it's your health, there's a real risk.
Yep.
So we need to evaluate and hold doctors accountable, healthcare professionals accountable, in the same way that you're going to call that mechanic acting crazy because your brakes didn't get fixed. We have to do that. Don't let them discredit you because you come and say, I read something. And I'll tell you this, you have to be careful. You can't go and look up something on WebMD and present it to a doctor. They're just going to just be done with you. Yep. If you really are concerned, if it is a real problem for you, you need to do your research. So I think maybe another topic for another day might be how to actually research certain things. Because I think a lot of people don't know. And yeah, it's going to take you back to your college days. But let's use it for you now. That's important. You want to go into your doctor's appointments armed with information. You want to understand whatever your diagnosis is. Yes, they're there to answer questions, and they're supposed to be guiding you and instructing you. That's true. But you have a responsibility as well. Check your source. That is so important. So I want to definitely put that out there as well. You know, we're basically on number 3 of our 4 points tonight. The last point that we had was basically this concept of the basics of keeping it together health-wise when something happens, both physically and emotionally. And that goes hand in hand with health advocacy too, because I feel like a lot of people, they get scared to speak up for themselves when it comes to medical professionals in a way that they wouldn't in any other situation. If you don't do it, no one else is going to do it for you. Plain and simple. Misdiagnosis is a killer. And while there is never a way to guarantee the best of the best doctor or whatever for any situation, of course not, you do still have a responsibility to, vet your situation and know something. Look at the people, you hear the horror story of people who, oh, well, they thought it was cancer, but they didn't do this test, and then we went back, and it's stage 4. There's nothing that can be done. That's crazy. I'm sorry. In 2017, when we all know that the government has full-body scanners, let's not even get into that right now. But okay, we know this, right? Okay, so that's not an option. That's not what should be happening right now. So, I mean, I could scream it from the rooftops. We've got to do the work. And just as a little, not plug, but a little aside, me being a health counselor and a health coach, I find that this industry, for lack of a better word, is growing because people are starting to wake up to the fact they need somebody on their side. Maybe they need a conduit, they need a support system, or they need somebody to advocate for them louder than they can for themselves. That is where this industry was born from. And in a time like this where people are losing their health insurance and they can't go to the doctor, in a time where going to the doctor is a revolving door situation, that's where the attractiveness of that type of person as part of your health plan or health agenda for yourself, that's where that fits into place.
Absolutely. And to add more to that point, I know that healthcare has been a huge, as far as insurance goes, has been a huge topic in this country, with our current president, and we're not going to get, into politics here, but with our current president and, taking away the Obamacare, which in my opinion wasn't fantastic anyway. It was better though, however, what we may be facing in what your opinions are on that doesn't really matter as much for this point. But my point is, somebody, I received a call saying, oh my gosh, what are you going to do now if they take away Obamacare because you're pre-existing and you're not going to be able to get insurance anymore? And I said, you know what, I'm not that worried about it. I mean, yes, it's, one thing I like about Western medicine, and that I still think what Western medicine rules at, is diagnostics and really, and emergency services. And yes, we all want to be able to have access to that, and we all want to use those, and I still think that those are good. But at the end of the day, we all need to be taking care of ourselves. If you are not eating properly, it doesn't matter who your health insurance carrier is. You know, if
Right.
you know, you need to be eating properly, you need to be walking every day or doing some sort of physical activity, unless you're, you know, bedridden for a couple weeks like I am. I should be right now. You should be taking the proper supplements every day. You should be not eating certain things at all. You know, like McDonald's should not be on anyone's agenda. And I apologize if you love McDonald's, but at the end of the day, if you're eating McDonald's all the time and you keep ending up in the doctor's offices, well, then, you know, that you have to take responsibility for that. So if we all, in my opinion, if we all take responsibility for our own health care fully, meaning what we're doing at home, then it doesn't quite matter as much what is going on with the health insurance. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So sorry. Go ahead.
You went out for a moment, then you came back.
Oh, I
Like,
did.
'cause I was like, "What's up?"
Oh, okay.
I got you.
So
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And to piggyback off of that, I mean, this then becomes a conversation about, you know, preventable disorders and diseases where we can be fully responsible because they're lifestyle diseases versus things that happen out of our control. And I do want to say a quick note about that. I've heard and I've seen, especially being in the South, this concept, oh my gosh, generational curses. Okay, so we're going to address that right now.
go ahead.
Nothing is generationally cursed. If you have a problem, be the one to break the cycle.
Yep.
Type 2 diabetes doesn't run in your family.
Thank you. Thank
It
you.
does mean that a bunch of people in your family have chosen not to eat properly.
That's
Let's
true.
address it.
That is
People
true.
don't have gout just because they have gout. They have made choices in their life that lead to these situations. We have responsibility over what we put in our mouths, over what we do with our bodies, over what we spend our time with. And while, yes, we all have our craving, our fix, our thing, we get lax. Listen, I am no stranger to a chocolate cake, okay? But the point of the matter is, there's a difference between something that you have as a treat and something that you have every day.
Yep.
I have dealt with women in my teaching and my work, you know, who have come to me and said, I have an addiction to ice cream and I eat ice cream every day. Now, on a professional level, I can address that, but on a personal level, I want to shake you. Because you're killing yourself for a momentary fix. You okay, but then you look down on drug addicts. It's the same thing. Hello?
Yep.
Sugar is the most addictive drug on earth.
That's right.
Besides caffeine.
Yeah. Well, yep.
Right. So, I know that I sound like I'm lecturing and I'm shaking and wagging my finger, and you know what? A little bit I am. Because this is the other side of the health advocacy conversation. This is the side that people don't like. We can talk about, you know, be strong with your doctor, arm yourself with information, you know, do your research, get support. We can do all of that. But if you do all of that and you still come home and you dive into a bag of Doritos every night, you're missing the mark.
Yeah, seriously. So, and I understand it too. I have a sweet tooth. But I'll tell you, as big of a sweet tooth as I have, when I found out that I had fibroids also, again, which is how we met, but or had fibroids, I should say. I think the majority of mine have dissipated now. But that year, when my stomach was distended and they told me that there was the possibility of ovarian cancer, it turned out that I did have a stem of a cancer, but it was called leiomyosarcoma. You know, I looked up what to do in cancer diets, and I saw that, you know, sugar feeds cancer. And I read it I had to read it like 10 times. It took me like 72 hours. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Cupcakes, girl, like cupcakes. I love to eat cupcakes. But I made a decision at the end of the day. I either want to live well the remainder of my life, or I would like to choose cupcakes and keep ending up in the doctor's offices, or possibly feed into a cancer that might kill me. And so I made a decision that day that I don't eat sugar like that anymore. And it is a very, very rare treat for me if I will have a sugary snack now. The majority of sugar I keep in my diet, you know, occasionally a glass of wine or something like that. Right now I'm not drinking at all, obviously, with something that's as serious as sepsis and having a fever. I've been off alcohol for quite a while now. But what was I going to say? Oh, honey. And we're going to talk about things that we do daily later. So honey is part of my daily diet still, and the sugar from honey does not break down in the body the same as white sugar does. And then fruits, because those are natural things from the earth that heal. Outside of that, I had to make a decision and I walked away from it. So it's, I'll hear people talk to me about the things they must eat. I have a friend that told me I must have Heinz ketchup all the time. I said, okay, then don't complain to me about your pain, because that's inflammation right there. That's inflammation central. So, you have to make a choice, and at some point, if you make the wrong choice, you're going to have to accept responsibility for it. So, that's it.
I could tell a story right now that would make everybody quit ketchup forever.
Oh.
But I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that to everybody right now. I don't eat ketchup, and I never did. I'll just leave it at that. But yes, these are all, very major, very important points. And interesting on this eve that we're talking about this, because this is 1 year that I quit smoking.
Yay!
Yes. See, I've been healthy, and I don't know if you can see it, but I'm using air quotes, and the reason is this. I really did transform my life over the past 7 years when I got diagnosed with fibroids and went through my surgery. I did do that. But I held on to my smokes. There was my last vice. Doing this, being part of this world, of course I know on so many levels what it's doing. Like, you don't even understand how many levels I have to knowing what it means to smoke a cigarette and it being terrible, and I know. But that for me was a difficult one, because that was the only vice that I had. I had cut everything else out. I had reduced my sugar. I had, gone mostly plant-based. I had gone fully organic. I had, started taking herbs and getting into herbalism and doing all these different things. That was my last piece. So fast forward to today, in 1 year, and it was hell when I quit. That's a separate conversation. Coming out of that, the level of health that I have now, even beyond what I had before, which was good health, is unmatched. And so really, again, it comes down to, what do you want for yourself? It's very easy for us to get wrapped up into the minutia of daily life, where, one more is not going to kill me, this thing's not going to kill me, that thing's not going to kill me. It won't on that day, but 365 days from now, it could. And that's how you have to look at everything. And yes, to a certain extent, that's it seems like a dim outlook. It seems like a dark outlook. But in your heart, and in your body, what feeds you and makes you feel good, and what feeds you and doesn't. We all know at the end of the day, ice cream, candy, cookies, all that type of stuff, it's good in the moment. And then you're holding your stomach 30 minutes later. We know this. Yep. We all know it. We know. That's why it's a sore subject for everybody, because we know that's what it is. We know that it's not good for us. If we didn't know, nobody would care. People wouldn't care as much. So, we have to stay also too rooted in the reality of what this is. This is, I hear this all the time, and it sounds really cliche, but it's true. This isn't just a fix. This is a lifestyle. You are changing your life. You're starting to vibrate at a higher level, so to speak. You're making bigger moves. That's the whole point of this. You have to do everything together, and it takes time, and you can be patient, and you can move slowly, but the key is to continue to move and be on that path in the right direction. That's important, because your doctor, even if you have the best doctor in the world, the doctor's not in your kitchen.
Yep, that's
it. And I want to interject one thing about that too. I heard an interview a couple of years ago on NPR about these two doctors who are trying to bring back this service of house calls. And their interview was amazing, because you don't think about it, but what do house calls bring to the equation? If a doctor makes a house call, they can see how you're living, they can see what you're eating, they can see what you're using in your bathroom, what you're putting on your body. How well does that inform a diagnosis in a way that sitting in an office and reading off of a lab report can?
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Just keep that in mind.
Yep. So awesome. So I think we were going to talk about, where are we now? Can we talk about supplements or like daily things that we do to help? Okay. All right, cool. So I guess I'll start really fast. So again, just running through my chronic conditions. I don't know if anyone knew's on or whatever, but stage 4 endometriosis is my biggest one. I call it the mother illness. I've been dealing with that since my 20s. and that one mostly has caused, a severe amount of like just crazy side effects. One of them, I used to have really bad cystic acne that started as I was approaching my 30s. So like I go through my teens with decent skin, and then all of a sudden it's like I look like a 16-year-old, at like 30, which was crazy. So some of my supplements started because I was just trying to simply get rid of the acne, and then I realized as I was going through them that they work very well. And I'm also going to say this, the reason why I think, I don't know anything for sure. A lot of tests were not done that should have been done early on. But reading about the study of sepsis from other health organizations, Sharp Hospital here in San Diego being a good advocate for sepsis out there now, they had a report that says that high amounts of vitamin C given intravenously are something very good to attack sepsis. And I read that and I was like, oh, thank goodness. Maybe that helped save me, because I'm telling you, I was taking something about like 5,000% over the recommended daily value of vitamin C during the time I had the fever, because I'm like, I don't know what's hitting my system right now, but let me go to my kitchen. So I'll start with that. This is one form of vitamin C. Let me see. I might let's see if you can see that I use. This is a liposomal format. It's by Boardroom Organics. Once again, I don't know for sure how well it works. There's not a whole lot of research. I said, go ahead. Sorry.
There, just so people understand.
Yeah.
So there have been numerous studies on sepsis in terms of vitamin C usage. The reason why a lot of doctors don't know about these studies is because research in the United States is scientists versus doctors. They don't work together.
Yep.
So if I'm working in my research capacity and I'm reading and evaluating papers, these are not things that doctors look at. Please remember, pre-med and medical students are not required to take parasitology. Half the stuff that's happening to people medically with their stomachs and all these autoimmune diseases is a fungal infection. It's a parasitic infection. So why I bring that up is because if you, I had to, and this is part of my training, read some of these papers. Vitamin C, high dose vitamin C is actually used to treat a lot of different things. We're talking about, 13,000 units a day that they would administer intravenously. Vitamin C literally breaks apart bacteria in the blood. That's what's so great about it. The vitamin C that Moon is taking, oh, my dryer's going crazy. The vitamin C that Moon is taking, it's liposomal vitamin C. What that means is that it's complex into what are called micelles, which are basically like little tiny bubbles. So it makes it more bioavailable when you digest it, because all your stomach acid needs to do is break apart those bubbles, and the vitamin C is released. It takes less time and is more bioavailable than, say, a couple of tablets. So I just want to throw that in there for people.
No, thank you very much, because I'm not a scientist by any means. I'm just a girl who loves to read about health, and I read a lot of information, and I know what I should do, but I can't explain why very well. So thank you very much for that. And yes, I said liposomal. I always say that for some reason. Liposomal. Thank you very much for correcting me on that as well. So again, this is one from Boardroom Organics. This is the one I use. This is my preferred one of choice. I get it from Amazon, but I don't know that this is the best brand. So, do your own research. Everything I'm going to talk about, please do your own research. But this is what I was taking, and high doses of. In fact, this is a new bottle because I finished the old bottle in 2 weeks, trying to bring that fever down. Also, let me see, cod liver oil. This is my preferred brand of that.
Yes. People don't like it. Cod liver oil is a lifesaver.
It is.
All the time.
So, one thing that was crazy for me about having a fever this past 2 weeks, and even having any kind of sickness like that, for all my chronic illnesses, I never get a cold. I don't get a cold. I don't get a sinus infection. I don't get flus. And I don't get like the flu shot or anything like that. It is because I do things like the vitamin C, but the cod liver oil, I've been taking this brand for 3 years now. I took another brand before that. This is, it's not right on the bottle and easy to read. NutriPro International. So it's really small in here. NutriPro International. This one has a little lemon flavor in it, so it doesn't taste quite as nasty as normal. They also have one with no flavor, and they have one with peppermint. But it's virgin cod liver oil, and it has all kinds of, like the vitamin D is in it, vitamin A is in it, omega-3, which is really good for the body and inflammation. So I take that daily. And then also, I just brought this out here, but everybody knows what ginger is. I take ginger, and I make either a hot ginger tea every day, and when I get sick, I drink it like by half a gallon a day. And again, I overdo things, so I'm not saying these are the quantities you should take, but I was drinking about half a gallon a day of hot ginger tea. But I also, during a period where I'm doing well, I still drink ginger every day, but I incorporate it into my morning smoothie.
Let me interject for 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
So anybody who follows me knows, especially if you watch my Insta story and watch me make juice or you watch me make smoothies, I pretty much ingest high quantities of ginger every day as well. The reason is because ginger is extremely anti-inflammatory. I'm not even going to get into the chemistry of it right now, but there are chemical compounds that are found in ginger root that work to literally calm down and stop the inflammatory cascade of the cytokines that are released from your immune cells. So if you keep your immune system calm, that means it's more, think of your immune system as a guard tower. If you keep setting it off, it's jumpy all the time, which means it responds to things that aren't there, just like it responds to things that are there. And if it starts to really respond to things that aren't there, you have an autoimmune disease. So you want to keep it at a calm state, and you want to keep your immune system vigilant so that when something really needs to be treated, it jumps on it. That's what ginger does for you. Go ahead.
That's great. No, thank you so much for that explanation. Okay, so moving on quickly. This is the same company that makes the cod liver oil that I use, and so NutriPro International, again, this is their high potency vitamin butter. It's high in vitamins and antioxidants. So I know it's so funny, we grew, if those of you that grew up in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s, we've been hearing, no fat in the health community, no fat. And I actually, yeah, it's so wrong. It's so wrong. And, we all have heard about coconut oil solves everything nowadays, right? And I was eating coconut oil every day too. But, so this butter, we all were told to avoid butter. So when I read about this, I think it was like maybe a year and a half ago, I was like, what? No way. But I was still afraid to try it. I just recently incorporated this to my diet about 2 months ago, and I did it specifically for my teeth, which have been suffering a little bit because I chew ice all the time. So anyway, it's high in vitamin A, E, K, again, antioxidants, and omega-3s, and I think in combination, particularly with the fish oil, it's very good for the immune system. And yeah, so I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, Kenya, for that one.
Oh, you covered that one well.
Okay, thank you. And then also, so I have 3 versions here, and I'm just going to go through them really fast. Honey is something I talked about earlier. I have daily. I have 3 versions because of cost. So every day, on a normal day, when I'm just a normal day, which for me is a pain level 7 with the endometriosis and the multiple sclerosis, I always have an apple cider vinegar tonic drink in the mornings. And I use either blackstrap molasses in it for iron, and I have that out here too, so I'll show that in a minute. Or I use honey, and I have honey every day, whether it's in tea or I just eat a scoop of it, as I'm headed out the door, just because it's really good. And I'll let Kenya talk about why it's good in a couple of seconds, but this is my cheaper version for my daily. It's organic, it's raw, and raw, by the way, means that it is not going to fall out of the container. If you're eating clear honey that's just dripping out, it's not the right honey. It should be, it should be thick, and not really move around as much. I think some of the other honeys are nice, but I think these are the ones that are like more healthy. I also really love Manuka honey, which is supposed to be like the medicinal honey. This is my slightly more expensive honey. This is my medium grade honey. If I just have a sore throat coming on, and I sing sometimes in some of my tracks, I get laryngitis a lot from that. So this is my favorite honey for that. I'm not saying you should do this. Maybe Kenya can elaborate later, but I wear contacts and I wear them a lot, sometimes too much. So, my eyes will get a little red, maybe a little pussy at times. And I actually use this Manuka honey in my eye. I use it mixed down with water. I drip it in there. My eyes are nice, white, and bright, recovering from that. I also get yellow eyes from narcotics damage that I've had in the past. This helped to re-whiten them from that. And yeah, so Manuka honey for when you're a little bit sicker. Now, when you have the mother sickness like I have right now, this is my favorite honey for that. This is $50, or $42 right now on Swanson.com. This is pure NZ, meaning it's from New Zealand, I guess. and I don't see the brand on here, but it says, I think it's Manuka Health New Zealand MGO 400. I can't tell you scientifically exactly what that means, but this is what I've been using for, like, if something cuts through when anyone in my household gets sick, because I don't usually get sick, so this one doesn't get touched very often because it is so expensive. But this is what I've been using the last week. They gave me the antibiotics that I'm on are so strong that they have dried out my entire system, including the back of my throat. So I had an incident where we had to call the paramedics the other day because I was choking because my throat, everything's just sticking together. So I called my acupuncturist, who's also my TCM doctor, traditional Chinese medicine, and he said, "Girl, get your honey out. Get your honey, and you need to start like using that with coconut oil every day. Like just drink that, just eat it every day." And so I've been using this, and I can tell you today that my throat is feeling very lovely. So that's that right there. All right. I don't know if you want to elaborate on honey. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So honey, the use of honey is actually like its own lecture, really. But the key points are honey is extremely antibacterial. It does this both in terms of its composition, but it also does it mechanically. So sore throat, scratchy throat, have honey. It literally rolls over the inflamed spot, and it will literally, because of the viscosity of it, or the lack of viscosity, the lack of oxygen, it breaks open the bacterial cells. It's very cool. But it also, the structure of honey and what honey is also antibacterial. So it is really important. That honey you have in the honey bear in the back of your cabinet, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, that's not honey. That's not what honey is like. And it's not really doing much for you. So consider throwing that out and upgrading. And also, raw honey lasts longer because you need less. So we'll just put that out there.
Awesome.
I'll leave that because we have so much to talk about on additional recordings now. And it's like my brain is like, okay, I got to talk about this. I got to explain that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Sure.
So I'm going to end my supplement at there because I'm noticing the time right now. I know we're running low. So I'm going to let you take it from here, Kenya. Yeah. So you can go ahead, Kenya, then, with whatever you want to,
Well, I put up my vitamins that I take a lot on my Insta story, and I do it a lot on my Instagram so people can see, because my supplements are also geared towards eliminating and shrinking fibroids and preventing fibroids as well. But I will say this for people who are suffering with iron deficiency. I know you talked about, oh my gosh, my brain.
Blackstrap molasses. Oh, the apple cider vinegar drink with blackstrap molasses. Here you go. Yeah.
So those work really well. Another option, and this is one that I talk about a lot because I personally take it, liquid chlorophyll. And I love teaching on liquid chlorophyll because people are like, what do you mean the plant stuff? How does that help my iron? And it's actually like the coolest thing ever. So I love talking about that. It's long though, so I'm not going to do it now. But if you are suffering, and I've told this to so many women, if you are suffering from anemia, it's not just about adding more iron. If your blood cannot bind the excess iron, you will still be anemic. It is a two-part situation that you have to attack when you have anemia.
Yep.
So that's why I take chlorophyll, because it allows me to bind hemoglobin and iron better. And if I can bind better, then the rest of it is dietary. I need to have more spinach. I need to have more iron-rich foods. No big deal.
Yes. And I use chlorophyll also. I actually just started again recently. I did it like 2 years ago, and my hemoglobin count was up. And I had forgotten, like, I don't know why I didn't buy another bottle. And so when I was thinking about my hemoglobin being low again a couple weeks ago, I was like, duh, that's why I was using chlorophyll. So I just got it again. I've been using it the last couple of weeks. And yeah, I just love it. So, and it's great because your body odor is like, you have no body odor with chlorophyll. So
it's true. And I can tell you, I can tell you with being slightly gross, like, as for those of you that follow me, you know, I've been getting them plus 1,000 plus workouts this whole week. But also, because I'm at the gym for 2 hours, means I'm running around the world right afterwards. I can't come home and just chill, which means I'm kind of running out there gross. I'm not doing anything crazy, so I don't care. But the point of the matter is, I don't smell. Chlorophyll is amazing on so many levels, and one of the benefits also is that it oxygenates your blood. So it pushes your endurance level up. Your ability to oxygenate your blood when you're exercising, which allows you to push that hard, especially when you're doing cardio, is incredible. So that's another benefit that can be gleaned from that, and another reason why people take it.
Yep. So I think we're running out of time now. So I don't know if there's anything you want to say in conclusion or. Yeah.
This was awesome.
Yeah, it
And we're
was. Thank
definitely gonna
you.
do it again. We can't do it on a Friday night though. Like half the world is out right now.
Yeah, yeah, and apparently, I guess that's the
Out
time that they do
party.
the landscaping in my neighborhood. So I won't be making that mistake again because I think I probably pissed off a couple people tonight. But yeah,
But we'll definitely. I mean, obviously, we'll save the live, so it'll be there for 24 hours, and then we'll have copies. I'm going to put it up on my YouTube, and we can make a list of all the supplements that she talked about and the brands and put that in the YouTube notes. So I'll do that. But this is really awesome. I
it
love,
was.
at least on my side, I can see my comments. I'm sure you have a lot of comments on your side too.
A
Um,
few.